Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First item on the agenda is introduction of representatives and roll call. And Karen, who's working from her ancestral homeland, New York, could you please call the roll?
Thank you. Prospect Heights City Administrator Wade.
Yes.
Karen, we can't hear you.
Okay. Oh,
You're better now.
Prospect Heights Fire District Chief Smith.
Present.
Okay. Assistant Superintendent District 23 McPartland. Associate Superintendent of Finance District 214 Johnson.
Present.
Executive Director Prospect Heights Park District Ferraro. Okay. Executive Vice President Harper College Gaelic.
Present.
Okay. Cook County Deputy Director Bureau of Economic Development Elahi.
Present.
Prospect Heights Resident Representative Kearns.
Present.
CFO Cook County and Consolidated Elections Risky.
He's not there. He's the CFO of the Cook County. He's not here.
Thank you. Controller Cook County Forest Preserve Howell. Okay. Financial Director Wheeling Township Stapleton. Executive Director Prospect Heights Library Todd. Treasurer Metropolitan Water Reclamation District Boyle. Director Northwest Mosquito Abatement District Senish. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, it's Amy McPartland. I'm here.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Hi, this is Annette Curtis with the Prospect Heights Park District.
Thank you. I'll put you down.
Thank you, Karen. Item 3, approval of meeting minutes from March 2nd, 2021 meeting. If there are any additions or corrections, and if not, we will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Kathy Johnson.
Thank you, Kathy. And a second?
Second, Amy McPartland.
Thanks, Amy. Karen, could you please?
Yes, that's a roll call. Wade.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McPartland.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Now does Annette Curtis get to vote for the Park District?
I kind of don't think so. I was
Okay.
Patricia Ferraro on the call, because she's
No.
our executive director.
Okay, then I will not. Then I'll just mark absent. Okay. Gaelic.
Yes.
Okay. Elahi.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
Okay, and I believe that's everyone.
Thank you, Karen. Item 4 is approval of this agenda for this meeting, March 23rd. Motion for approval.
So moved. Johnson.
Second, Kearns.
Thank you. Thank you. Karen, could
Okay.
you please call?
Sure. Wade.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McPartland.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Gaelic.
Yes.
Elahi.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
Okay, and I believe that was it.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Item 5 is actually 6. I apologize when I drew up this agenda. I'm numerically challenged. So actually, 5 city review update is A and B. Just briefly for today, I think it'll be another quick meeting as we will be asking for a continuation until a date certain. Since our last meeting, we've made a lot of progress, and we also have an informational review from the city's TIF consultant, Mike Lauby. So at this point, I'll ask Mike if you can just kind of give it. I think we might have a couple new people from that were not at our first or second meetings or so. So, Mike, if you could also just give a little bit of a background about this TIF, and maybe even to step back as to that test about the but-for requirement and so forth, and I'll leave that to you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Madam Chair and members of the Joint Review Board, for the record, my name is Mike Lauby. I'm the the city's TIF consultant in this case. I've been asked to review the development economics and, assist the city in negotiating those economics. That negotiation is ongoing, but at a bigger picture level, we've reviewed the economics of the developer, and there's no question there's a financial gap there, meaning the project is not viable, or something much less than viable, without any TIF. And, the TIF itself is absolutely critical to facilitating the development here. So the finding that was made on a macro level in the redevelopment plan, that this TIF would not be reasonably anticipated to develop without the use of tax increment financing in the redevelopment plan, we've also corroborated that at the micro level of this specific deal. So there's no question in my mind that TIF is necessary, the use of the redevelopment plan is necessary, the implementation of the redevelopment plan is necessary. And, without which this site would, very likely stagnate for a long time without the implementation of this. We're in the process of working through a lot of these details with the developer, with city representatives, and also with various taxing districts. So that's ongoing, and I will have a more full report on that when all those items are finalized.
Thank you, Mike. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, and if not, we can move to item 5B, the second interim report of the Joint Review Board, Prospect Point Muir Park Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan and Project. Jim Hess, you worked with Eris on this. Do you want to explain where we're at with this item?
Sure, and just you kind of cut out there on my end. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. We're talking about the second interim report of the Joint Review Board?
Right. Basically, I think it's a formalization of a continuation, but I'll leave the explanation to you.
Correct. So this should be somewhat familiar to those who were part of the first interim report. The purpose of this interim report is to extend the time frame for the Joint Review Board to evaluate the proposed TIF and provide its written opinion, provide a vote and written this determination that can be provided to the City Council of the City of Prospect Heights. Specifically, the Joint Review Board in the second interim report would vote to request more time to issue that report, and the city would agree that it would not assert any type of presumption of the Joint Review Board's decision until the final issuance of the final report by Mr. Lauby or April 20th, 2021. So this is a very similar interim report, same language, same intent, just has some updated dates in here that make it more current and have it go through April 20th of 2021. Happy to answer any questions about it. But I think if Joe and Mr. Lauby have any additional information, but I think that the hope is that the JRB would have that report, additional information, and there would be enough information for a vote to occur before that April 20th, 2021 deadline.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions or comments for Mr. Hess? All right.
Joe, can you hear me? It's Tom Burney.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, good afternoon to you and all the members of the Joint Review Board. I just was wondering, I know I'm not a member of the board, but I do represent Lexington. Nate sends his regrets that he can't be here this afternoon. Is it possible that we could move up the report by Mike Lobby and to 2 weeks from now? What are the city council choices and meetings? And I'm throwing a lot of stuff out there. When I talked to Eris earlier, he was going to check on when the school board meetings are, so that we could perhaps get their written approval. So I guess that's kind of driving the schedule. When is the city council set to meet? And Jim Hess, do you agree that the city has to adopt an ordinance or resolution approving this? And then it occurs to me, Joe, that maybe I'm just messing up your agenda. But if somebody could address that at some point, that would be our ask.
Well, Tom, I think you've hit the hardest part of public policy, which is actually organizing calendar dates. Our meetings are for April are the 12th and 26th. But there's also concern. It's got to go to the school districts. So, and Jim, certainly you have, I think, concerns about publication dates and moving the public hearing meeting. So, the short answer to your question, Tom, is I don't know. But I mean, maybe as a group we can kind of look at this to see if there's any possibility of moving dates.
Okay, so Eris asked, Jim, will the city council require 2 readings of the ordinance or resolution to approve the intergovernment agreements?
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm pulling up my proposed schedule right now, and I can provide you with some more details based on the statutory requirements. Are you asking for, Tom? Are you asking if they can do a final, approval from on the initial hearing date?
It was Eris's question, and I don't know how the city operates on a document, an agreement like this, whether it takes 2 readings or not.
So there is an ability to waive the city does have the ability to waive a first reading upon a 3/5 approval by the city council. As it relates to the actual date of approval, the statute requires that the earliest the adoption of the TIF ordinance could be is, I believe, there has to be 14 days after the public hearing closes. So the city council cannot approve the ordinances any sooner than 2 weeks after the date of the close of the public hearing.
Okay, so our druthers would be to get all this part of it wrapped up on the 12th of April. But Eris, do you have any intel, or Kathy, of when does your school board meet?
No, I didn't check those dates. Tom, Kathy, Amy, do you know what your April meeting dates are?
I have the dates. I'm just confirming if I need 2 meetings, one to present and another to approve, or if it's a one and done. And I also need to check and see if I can get it in on the right date. So right now it's looking like if all the stars align, it would be April 15th. If they don't align, it would be April 29th. So I'm checking on that now.
What stars are you referring to? If you need 2 meetings?
2 meetings, and then what we have is we have a meeting to review what we're going to cover at the next meeting, the planning meeting. And if that planning meeting has already occurred, which I believe it has for the April 8th meeting, then the 29th is one I need. So it's convoluted. I'm looking now.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's Amy McPartland, and I'm assuming my internet is going in and out, so my apologies for that. District 23's next meeting is on April 14th, and I was just talking with our superintendent. We would potentially be prepared to take action on the 14th if we absolutely needed to.
But right now, it's looking like I've missed the stars aligning, and 5/13 is the soonest that I can get it approved.
5/13.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, Jim, how does that all fit into the TIF statute?
Not necessarily sure what how to answer that question.
It's a stupid question.
Well, I guess the way this works is the JRB, there can be an ask for a written report and findings of the Joint Review Board. It doesn't necessarily need to be unanimous. I mean, obviously, we'd sure like everybody to, or the city would sure like everybody to be on the same page and have unanimous approval. If the districts can't hold the meeting by a date certain, but it still has the information, it can certainly vote how it sees fit if asked for a vote and asked to comment in its written decision as part of the JRB, and it can be noted in the report. So I think it's just going to be a determination by the Joint Review Board and the city how they'd like to move forward with the timing of asking the Joint Review Board for their vote and written report.
Eris, do you have any advice for us on how to protect your client's interests and yet not extend this till May 13th when Kathy's district can act?
I would like the city to approve the IGA as soon as possible, and then we can get Amy's board to approve on April 14th. And then if 214 then needs until May 13th, so be it. It would be the third one to approve. But I'd like to get it teed up for city approval as soon as possible. So I don't know. You mentioned a couple meetings, Jim. You mentioned the 12th and the 26th of April. Maybe we can get it on that agenda for the 12th and waive that second reading.
I think we're all in agreement of moving this forward, and I think it can be done. Jim, why don't you and I coordinate? We have the sense from both Lexington as well as the school districts. Jim and I will coordinate, but I think we'll target the 12th. Seems like it's very possible.
Okay.
And if I understand you, Jim, that would then allow us to have the public hearing. Oh, we need to get the Joint Review Board to take a vote somewhere before the 12th. And then that would open up the 26th for a public hearing.
I think, Joe, and you could be wrong, because we're doing the public hearing, we have it tonight, and we've been doing it on a date separate than the actual city council meetings, just so we can keep them separate. So
right.
The public hearing, and I think, Joe, we had talked about the 27th, so the day after the 26th, the normal meeting date?
The 20th. We
20th?
were looking at the 20th. But that would be something we could propose for tonight. I'm thinking if we could move the agreement to the city council meeting of the 12th, and then if it's possible, if we can get a joint review board meeting before that. Dan, do you want to say something?
No.
Somebody's
Go ahead, Eric.
quacking.
That was my phone, Tom. I'm sorry. It's Dan.
Of course it was.
Of course it was. Yeah, I apologize, folks. I forgot to silence the work phone. So, because we're going to need to approve this, if I heard you correct, Jim, we need 2 weeks after the JRB at the close of the public hearing, correct?
No, we need 2 weeks after the public hearing, to close the public hearing before the ordinances can be formally adopted by the city council. So if the public hearing is held on the 20th, and at that public hearing that's predicated on the city council getting a written report from the Joint Review Board, they'd have there be the public hearing on the matter, and then 2 weeks from the close of the public hearing is the earliest the city council at a regular meeting or a special meeting could approve the ordinances or adopt the ordinances.
So that would mean that we would have to have it to try and get it for an approval on the 26th. We'd have to have the public hearing no later than the 13th of April.
12th.
Yeah, the 12th.
The 12th, yes.
So we're limited.
I'm just looking at calendars, guys.
Okay, yeah, and Dan, just so everybody's aware, the window is 14 days after the close of the public hearing is the soonest it can be introduced and adopted, and no more than 90 days. So it's a 14 to 90 day window.
So Jim, is there anything preventing the city from approving the IGA on the 12th though? That seems like it can move independently. And once we get that done, 2 days later, District 23 can approve it, and a few weeks after that, District 214.
Yeah, I don't see, I don't see a problem with that proceeding in that order.
And that gives us enough time, and I talked to Tom briefly this morning about it, to finalize the IGA with you, Jim, obviously, as well, and make sure everybody's comfortable with it. And then, several days before the 12th, make sure it's in your board packet, et cetera.
Eris, do you have any, as long as we follow that, and I like your suggestion, do you have any issue with us scheduling the public hearing and trying to tee this up? Is to say scheduling the public hearing on the 12th, and then what do we have to wait 14 days, Jim? I'm sorry, before we can, after the close of the public hearing, to adopt the TIF?
Correct. It's the introduction, so it's not necessarily the adoption. It's the first, at least the introduction. So the first time that they're introduced at the city council meeting, and then they can, in theory, could be adopted with a waiver in one vote at that time. But the introduction, the first time that they're introduced, has to be at least 14 days after the close of the public hearing.
Okay, so that 4/12 date fits very well with what Eris is expressing as the city council's adoption of the IGA, the conduct of the public hearing, and so, Kathy, you put it, the stars are kind of aligning except for your school district. So when should we have the Joint Review Board vote on this matter? If we were aiming for 4/12 for a bunch of stuff like the public hearing and the approval of the IGA.
Well, first and foremost, just real quick, Joe and Dan, I know we've been separating the public hearing from separate from the city council meetings. What is your thought on holding the public hearing on the same night as a regular city council meeting?
It can be done. I've had that experience. You just like other public hearings, maybe you slate it for 6 p.m. with the regular council meeting to follow. I think it could be done.
And then I think we just keep essentially set the final JRB then for April 20th and wrap it up then. And we'll go into the JRB with the city and District 23 having approved the IGA.
Okay.
So, and I just want to make sure I have this right. So we have 4/12/21 as the IGA being considered by the city council. And we're talking about having the public hearing on the 12th as well?
Mm-hmm.
So, but we would have to, and then, So in theory, if we have the JRB on the 20th, the JRB would have a vote. We'd have to have the public hearing would need to be closed, in order to have the final public hearing for it to be closed, the JRB would have to be done and issue its decision and provide a written decision for that city council to consider at the public hearing. So the JRB would need to issue its determination before that public hearing can be conducted, the final public hearing.
Dan has reservation. Go ahead, Dan.
We would be, to my understanding, Jim and Eris and those who are evidently more versed in TIF than I, but as I read it, like you said, Jim, the JRB has to make the written recommendation in a public hearing before the council can act on that at a public hearing. Correct?
That's correct. So the typical order is JRB finishes its hearing, makes a determination, issues its written report and findings to the city council for the purpose of a public hearing. The city council would consider the JRB's findings and recommendation at that public hearing. It would close the public hearing, and then there'd be a 14-day period until the city council would then, as the public body, introduce and review the TIF ordinances.
So, Eris, do you have any reason why we shouldn't have the JRB vote and recommendation on the 7th of April or thereabouts before the meeting on the 12th?
Yeah, because I want to have the IGA approved prior to the JRB recommendation, Tom.
Well, and what risk, knowing the havoc that creates with this schedule, what risk is there to you? Do you need a written promise from Lexington that if they proceed with the development, they will abide by these terms? We've got a done deal here, and I hope we can try to work through this so we could try to wrap this up by the 26th or 27th of April. So I want to not leave your client at any risk, and would welcome some other suggestions besides postponing the JRB.
Can we do the JRB on the 13th?
What that too is that the public hearing is on the 12th, and it means that the public hearing would have to necessarily be continued till the 20th because they wouldn't have received the JRB recommendation. And if, from what I'm hearing from Jim, they can't act until 14 days after the public hearing is closed, which automatically pushes us into May.
Well, that may be the conclusion. There are certain things we can expedite and certain things we can't. Certainly the 12th for the city council meeting, we can put the IGA on the agenda for that. We probably could move up the joint review board meeting, but and Jim, I'm going to defer to you on this, but it seems like the one area that there's concerns about moving is the target date we have for the public hearing, which is April 20th.
I just think as long as the Joint Review Board is in a position to issue its decision, and obviously part of that evaluation is these discussions today, if the city and the Joint Review Board feel that it's going to be in a position to make its, issue a written decision and findings to the city council by, that second week of April, that's certainly acceptable. But then they're going to need probably about a week or so to issue their written findings, deliver it to the city council for the public hearing purpose. And that public hearing would have to be held, presumably at least a week later. And then if and when that public hearing closes on that initial date, we'd have an additional 2 weeks from that public hearing to when the ordinances could be adopted for the first time. So we are limited to a schedule. The only ones we're really truly limited to are the close of the public hearing and the consideration of the ordinances, but practically speaking, there is going to be some scheduling that needs to be buffered for the Joint Review Board voting, having the information it needs to vote, and then providing that written report for the public hearing.
Hey, Eris, could you just try this on? What if could the two school districts condition their recommendation of approval on the adoption of an IGA?
Let me make the following suggestion. Let's have the JRB meet on the 13th. So we get the city council, it approves the IGA on Tuesday the 12th. Monday the 12th. The JRB meets on the 13th rather than the 20th. And then the city schedules the public hearing for, does it have to be on a Monday? Schedule it for the 14th or 15th or the 19th. And then you're not that far into May. If you do the 19th, you could adopt the TIF ordinances 14 days later is May 3rd. I don't see that as a problem.
I just think the only thing we need to concern ourselves with is if we're holding the JRB on the 13th, that we have time to turn around a written report and recommendation from the JRB. So it could, in theory, could be a couple days later, but we'd want to make sure that it has time to make it to make it available for the public hearing and considered during the public hearing.
But Jim, I think we'll go into the final JRB with that report done. You know what I'm saying?
No, I understood.
I think, that to me, we would arguably, I think it's circulated prior to that final JRB meeting on the 13th, so everyone knows what it's going to say. There's no surprises at this point. You know what I'm saying? And City Council approves on the 12th, final Joint Review Board with report issued on the 13th, and then the city has its public hearing either the 14th or 15th, or if you like Mondays, go with the 19th. And then the earliest day you could approve those TIF ordinances would be Monday, May 3rd. I think that sequencing works.
I do too. I do too. So that's a fine compromise from Lexington's point of view, given those scheduling issues that we have.
I think that those dates work per the requirements. I would just have to defer to Joe and Dan administratively on their thoughts. And of course, tonight is resumed for public hearing, so there would, similar to how the JRB has been continuing to a date certain, the council during the public hearing tonight would need to make a motion to continue to a date certain that is agreeable to everybody on their end.
Well, I think it could work. The 12th, schedule the IGA for the regular city council meeting. The 13th, the joint review board meeting. And then Monday, because I do believe we should have some time to have a product for the public hearing for the public to be able to review. To bring that to Monday the 19th as the public hearing date. And if that's satisfactory, that's the schedule we can work from.
Cool.
So let me walk the dates by everybody one more time so our notes are all in the same place. April 12th would be the city council is presented with the IGA with anticipated approval. April 13th, JRB has the final meeting, report is issued. Then probably April 19th, if I heard Joe right, is the public hearing. And then May 3rd would be the soonest the city could approve the TIF ordinances. That would be the 14th day.
Correct.
And then, this is Dan, then Aris and Kathy, Amy, then your dates, you'd have time to schedule what you needed to get done within that period, correct?
Not Kathy.
Amy would present it to her board for approval on the 14th of April, Dan. And then Kathy, just based on sequencing, it would be early May, but that's not a problem.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that we were all looking, trying to match up as closely as we could.
So Eric,
Okay.
Eric, can you repeat that again? So we're looking at 412, the city would approve the IGA. 413, is that correct, the public hearing?
That's the JRB final meeting.
JRB.
And then
Okay,
the 14th is your board meeting.
That's correct, yep.
And then the 19th, I think, if I heard it right, would be the public hearing date for the city. And then 2 weeks later, May 3rd would be the soonest the city could approve the TIF ordinances.
Okay, I think that can work.
Sweet.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments about this schedule? And if not, we can go to item public comment. Is there anyone that would like to offer a public comment? Peter, nobody's on the lines?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 7, deliberations. And if there is nothing really to discuss, I think today's more of a scheduling day. That brings us to scheduling additional meetings, and we will adjust that. As proposed, the next joint review board meeting would be the 13th at 2 p.m. And if that is acceptable.
I apologize, Joe. I don't know. Did we get a vote on approval of the second interim report? I know we discussed it. I don't know.
Okay. You're right, Jim. Thank you.
I thought it was
Okay, in a second.
McPartlin?
Good catch, Jim.
Okay, the move by, Amy?
Moved by Kathy, second by Amy.
Okay, thank you. Call roll. Wade?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
McPartlin?
Yes.
Yes.
Johnson? Okay, Galen?
Yes.
Elahi?
Yes.
Kearns?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Which continue. I'm sorry, Dan. Anything else? I think we got a couple other items. So let's see. Scheduling additional meetings as proposed. Joint review board to Tuesday, April 13th, 2 p.m. Jim, do we need a motion about that?
Yes, we just would need a motion to continue. There would be a motion to continue. Instead of adjourning today, we'll just do a motion to continue to the date certain of April 13th, 2021.
Okay.
So move, Johnson.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. In a second.
McPartlin?
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Karen, please call the roll.
Okay, that's a continuation to move the next JRB meeting to April 13th at 2 p.m. Wade?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
McPartlin?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gaelic?
Yes.
Elahi?
Yes.
Kearns?
Yes.
All right. Other business? If there is none, then and wait, basically, I think we've already continued. Jim, are you going to let me slide? I think we voted on this twice, I believe.
Yeah.
Continuing.
We're covered.
Okay, belt suspended.
Yeah, we don't have to adjourn. We've already motioned to continue it, so it's not closed. The meeting is just continued at this point.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, everybody.